If I told you that next Sunday, that would be the last opportunity that you'd be able to meet in a church building. From that time onwards, all church buildings would be closed forever. Well, it wasn't quite like that, but we went through something of that experience at the beginning of the coronavirus lockdown. We had 72 hours notice, many of us, to try and rearrange another way of live streaming or connecting with people other than gathering them in a church building. And we know that's not the permanent solution. We do know that we'll get access back to buildings at some time. But I wonder what we've learned in the meantime. I remember Easter 2020, we have the Archbishop of Canterbury being interviewed live on television, and he's preparing to hold a communion service from his kitchen. Can you imagine? Who would ever thought that we would have an Easter Sunday with the Archbishop of Canterbury presiding over communion from his kitchen table? How beautiful in many, many ways, but we would have thought that would be projected as the Easter celebration for Anglicans and for other believers. And I remember the newspaper journalists, the television journalists saying, what would it be like for Christians not able to go to church on this Easter day and celebrate together as Christians in a church? And the Archbishop of Canterbury was very, very wonderful in his reply. He said, well, you know, the very early church, there were no church buildings. We met in homes. And while we are very happy and grateful for our magnificent buildings, I mean, Anglican buildings have so much history, and we all know that church buildings can be very, very useful. But anyway, the Archbishop said, yeah, we are very grateful for our magnificent buildings, but they are not necessary. I mean, I thought, we're in the middle of a Reformation, where church is being redefined because of external circumstances, from gatherings in church buildings to the people who are in 24/7 relationship with Jesus Christ and with each other out there in the community, in the home, in their places of work, wherever they are. We are the church. I always say to my congregations in Kensington Temple, listen, don't talk about going to church. You don't go to church. You've never been to church in your life. You are the church. Or today we have this other expression which I find a little bit irksome because it doesn't really get to the nub of the issue. Oh, we have to find new ways of doing church together. Well, I know what you mean when you talk about doing church, but you don't do church. You are church. The word ecclesia by derivation means called out, but actually that's not the meaning of the word. The word means gathering, called out for the purpose of gathering. We are the church because we are the gathered. We are gathered together unto Jesus. And this expression of church gathering, of course, is most naturally expressed when we meet together. In whatever groups where 2 or 3 are gathered, yes? Or when large celebration services, we gather together for that. Gathering together is obviously the most natural thing we can do if we are ecclesia. But we are not the church because we gather together. We gather together because we are the church. And so what I'm looking for is a transformation in our thinking, where we move away from building-bound thinking. Now, buildings are important and useful, but we must not allow the building and the idea of buildings to be that which dominates our concept of church and ecclesia. And one of the wonderful things is that churches were discovering that where they can't gather together on Sunday, not only finding all these creative ways of doing it in these Zoom meetings and all the other things that we've been doing. One of my own team members very, very recently said, do you realize you may never see the back of somebody's head again? I thought that was amazing. She was talking about Zoom, you know, you're full on in face in the camera all the time. All you do is see people's faces. What a contrast when we normally meet in buildings, all we see is the back of people's heads. And this is a symbolic 180 degree where we turn around from having fellowship with the person, the back of somebody's head sitting in front of us in a row, and we actually gather in the small groups and in the cell groups. And that has been, I'll come back to that, has been one of the most amazing things about our experience in Kensington Temple and lockdown has been the cell groups. But we understand that fellowship is face to face with Jesus, face to face with one another. And this is what our experience, I think, of the lockdown will carry that forward into the future. Yes, the cells. You know, in Kensington Temple, we're a cell church. That doesn't mean to say we're just a church with small groups. Everything about the church is expressed through the cell groups, through the small groups, microcosms of the whole. And it was amazing to see the cell group leaders pick up 100% the pastoral care, the evangelism, the shepherding, the caring, the outreach, the social outreach. And wonderful to see the building closed and the church grows and the church goes on. Wow. Now, when we get back into meeting together in church buildings again, I'm going to celebrate that. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not in a hurry to push back. I want God to do his perfect work in us, preparation, this time of exclusion and all the rest of it, seclusion rather. And I think it's fantastic, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. Not easy, but wonderful. But I'm praying that we would completely rethink our ecclesiology. What does it mean to be the Church of Jesus Christ together, and to be the Church of Jesus Christ 24/7, and to be the Church of Jesus Christ out there in the community, in our homes and families, in the streets, in the cafes, in the bars, in the places where people need to hear us and to see us. So we're moving away from traditional church, I hope, to getting back to New Testament church, where ecclesia is about a permanent relationship with one another because we are permanently connected to Jesus.